Well, hey there, Nicole here, just coming to you with a new Canvas template, and I want to give you a quick overview so you know exactly what you are getting. So in this template, I created a choose your own adventure activity where students can go in, take a quick quiz, select the topic or the activity that they want to participate in, and then only that activity or assignment will populate for them in their module, and they will not be held accountable for any of the other assignments. So it's also going to keep your gradebook really clean and streamlined, and students get to have a little bit more motivation, being able to have some more choice, but it's all done automatically. So we're going to be using mastery paths in Canvas. This is a wonderful feature here that usually it's used in a way for faculty to create some pre-assessment, and students can go ahead and do the assessment to the best of their abilities, and based on their ability level, it's going to send them in a certain path or send them to some certain assignments, quizzes, discussions based on their score. So we're going to leverage this feature, and I've created a way for students just to select the topic, and it's going to send them to that pathway, and they can choose their topic that way. So what you're going to get in this template is this trigger quiz, or the trigger assignment for Mastery Paths that's going to be assigned to everyone in your class. And then I've also added in here 6 different topics or 6 different assignments for you to give students this many choices. If you don't have that number of choices, then what you would do is just go into assignments here and delete the assignments that you don't need. Let me go over what is now in the quiz and then what's in these assignments, and then you can know how to edit them or make them work for your class. So in this quiz, I have my usual assignment template, which is your unit question, overarching question, the activity goal, giving students some buy-in, what is this assignment and why are they doing it? Sometimes I try to give in some language here just to kind of give you a running start. Then we always want to put in the timeline so students have expectations on how long this should take. And then instructions. So essentially I'm telling them that there are 2 parts in this activity. The first one is for them to choose their own adventure, and essentially they're doing that by completing the quiz. Now I also put in a blurb in here that although this is a quiz and it has 3 questions with 3 points total, these points will not affect their total grade at all. And I will tell you in just a moment how to make sure that's going to happen in your class as well. So you don't have students worried about, I only scored a half a point. That's going to change my grade. No, we're just using these points in order to send them to the path that they've chosen automatically. All right, in part 2, once they have gotten to the topic of their choice, they can then do the explore and then you can insert your own learning objective to make sure it's matching what you need. So the important note that I'm telling students is that once they've completed this quiz, all they need to do is select modules, scroll down to where they see this quiz, and then underneath it, they'll have the option available to them right there, and they can dive into part 2 of the activity. So essentially what we're having students do is complete the quiz, click on modules, it's going to reload the module page, and then they will have their options ready there for them. Okay. Now, let me show you how this works and how it's set up. When you're creating mastery paths, I always, 99% of the time, I use a quiz because I want that choice to be given to them pretty quickly, even if it's an ability-based mastery path, not just choice. So I usually use a quiz, and so we have 3 tabs at the top here. Details, this is where we give them instructions, right? Questions, where we build in the question pathway, and I'll show you that in a moment, and mastery paths. Now, if you're using the Canvas new quizzes, it's going to be just the same. You're going to have details and questions are going to be kind of smashed together when you're doing the build phase of the quiz, but Mastery Paths will still be a separate tab. So you can go ahead and click on Mastery Paths, and it's going to look exactly like this. So Mastery Paths just gives us 3 pathways. And my thing is, well, what if I have more than 3 choices for students? So what I've done is I've given you at least 2 choices per pathway that students will choose to click on to choose, giving you 6 different topic options. Now again, if you don't need this many, then you would go into your assignments and delete the assignments that you do not need, and then you may need to do a little bit of cleanup here. I think it will automatically delete those for you, but just in case, let's say you don't need 6, then you would just click remove from here if it's still in your mastery paths. All right, so what I've done is I've made sure that when they do the quiz, if they get 2 or more of the questions correct, then they're gonna end up in this section, which means it gives them an option of topic 1 or topic 2. If they get 1 question correct, then they're gonna end up in this section with these 2 topics available. And if they get none of the questions correct, then they're gonna end up in this pathway, giving them these 2 options to select from. So let's look at the questions. There are only 3 questions, and I'm literally asking them to select their topic of choice. So the first question just says, select your topic of choice, always making sure that topic 1 or 2 is the correct answer, because we want those students to be in that top level. All right, the second question is, again, select your choice, and this question type is a multiple answer. So if students happen to select this second one, it's going to give them their 1 right answer, so they end up in the middle pathway. And then question 3 is just asking students, is one of your topics 5 or 6? If the answer is yes here, that's the incorrect answer, which means they've gotten all 3 incorrect, and they are going to end up on that lower or the bottom level, giving them the topics 5 and 6 to choose from. So just kind of a tricky way to set up questions for students to answer correctly and put them into the correct pathway. Okay, so this is all done for you. Let's go back to modules and get a better overview. So that's the quiz. Now let's look at one of the topics. In each topic, I've given you a template for the activity. Of course, this can be changed up to what works best for you, but I wanted to give you a running start. So again, I have my usual setup, unit question, activity goal, timeline, and instructions. And in here, I've spelled out for students the 3 different steps for this part 2. Step 1, they're going to start their journey. They're going to start with a key question that you provide them, and then they get to navigate through specific resources having to do with that topic. They even get a chance to find their own credible resource to use to pull into this group of resources. Their goal is to answer this key question, right, using the evidence from the resources. Step 2, they're going to now examine their discoveries from these resources. So on paper, they're just going to note each resource and what new information they learned, and how did this information help them to answer the key question. This is something that could be done in class. Also, something I was thinking about changing this up is if you wanted this part 2, the examination of the resources, to be the learning objective, to be the thing that you really care about the most, then you could actually ask students to build like a concept map where they have each of the resources listed there, and they are just noting what they've learned from each one and how that connects to the central or the key question. So essentially they are displaying their own thinking around the resources and how it's giving them the answer to that key question. Okay, so that can just be a 2-part activity here. Review the resources and then kind of bring your thinking, make your thinking more visible on those connection of resources to the key question. Now, if you want this to be done in class where they are writing on paper, maybe they hand that paper into you, and then the final step, they're gonna create their exhibit from their adventure. So this is a place where they can just create a presentation. I give them some options here, Google Slides or Padlet. Of course, you can switch that out with a presentation tool your students are more familiar with. They're creating a presentation based on what they've discovered through navigating those resources and wanting to answer that key question. So just some bullet points of what should be in that presentation. And then for this assignment, if you wanted them just to submit their like a concept map from step 2 or their actual presentation, they can just submit here a URL. So I've set this as submitting a URL, okay? Now, let's go back to modules. I want to give you a couple really specific steps to pull this into your class successfully. So before you go to Commons and pull this right into your class, you'll need to do one thing in your class, and that's to make sure that you have Mastery Paths actually enabled in your class, in your Canvas instance. To do that, go down to your course navigation and select Settings, the very bottom link in that course navigation. Then at the top, you're going to find Feature Options. Then you're going to scroll down until you see Mastery Paths, and it doesn't have a green check mark. You're going to click on it and select Enable. Okay, that's to make sure Mastery Paths is a working feature in your class. then you can go to Commons and import this whole module into your course so that it's going to be set up with the feature that it needs, okay? Now, once you have this in your class, you're gonna go ahead and click on the activities, and I want you to set these up first, okay? So that you have the right number of activities that you need, you have your resources listed, and what you're going to need to make sure that you do is double check that in the Assign To box, see, normally it just has everyone selected, right? We don't want everyone to be selected for this topic. We want it to only go to people who choose it through the mastery path. So we want to make sure that the Assign To box has a mastery path selected for every single one of those topic activities, all right? So step 1 is to make sure that you have the mastery paths enabled in your class. Step 2 would be to import this module, and step 3 would be to make sure that you have mastery paths assigned to each one of these activities or assignments, okay? All right, now once you've determined, yes, I'm gonna use all 6, or I'm only gonna use all 5, and you delete the one that you don't need, the 4th step is just to go into the quiz, and you're just gonna double check your mastery paths. You wanna make sure it's set up correctly. So click on mastery paths and just double check that your topics are in the right spots. And if you don't need one, then you can just remove it from that area, okay? All right, now let me check my notes one more thing. Okay, the last thing that you want to do is make sure that this quiz does not affect the grade of your students at all. To do this, we're going to hop into our assignments tab over in the left-hand side course navigation, and we're going to make sure that we have a grade group. If you're not familiar, assignments tab is where you create your weighted grade groups. So I'm just going to create a quick little grade group here. I'm going to call it 0. And I'm gonna make sure that it's worth 0% of their total grade, okay? So anything in this group is not gonna count towards their total grade. Now, if you don't already have weighted grades in your class, all you need to do is click on this triple dots top right corner, select assignment groups weight, and what you're going to see is this window here. You're going to select the checkbox that's going to make sure that you have percentages for each grade group that you have, or each group of assignments that you have, okay? All right, so that's how you create weighted grades. So I have my box here worth 0%, and I'm gonna just drag and drop my quiz into this 0% grade group, making sure that no matter what the students choose for a topic, it's not gonna affect their grade at all. All right, so I'm gonna hop back to modules. All right, and that is the end of the overview. So I would love for you to try this out. Really fun for your students. Again, this is highly flexible and versatile. And when students figure out how this works, you can use this over and over again. So it's definitely an activity that once they see the mechanics the first time, they'll know exactly what to expect. They're gonna get some more motivation, more engagement, because you're giving them some choice. And it's done completely automatically. So you do not need to track students, what activity they're choosing, make sure they're excused from the other activities in your gradebook. None of that is necessary when you're using this template. All right, have a great day. I'm always here for questions.